Hello, welcome in. Today I wanted to talk about the books I read in 2025 that were misses. There was just, they were a book. I read them and didn't really uh, like something about them. So to start off, I read Blood Moon. It's a YA dark academia paranormal novel. And it's about a young girl. She lives in this small town, and there has been legends about werewolves and vampires, and she's never really fully believed in these legends. It was very much inspired by Twilight and Vampire Diaries, and you could see that throughout the entire book. But our girl, she goes to college for the first time locally, and everyone is continues to talk about these legends. People are coming up missing, and it might be tied to the disappearance of her mother. When she was little, her mother had disappeared. She comes across an old friend who is the son of her father's friend, and he's kind of helping her through college. But she also ends up meeting another boy who she's not quite sure. There's something mysterious about him, and she thinks that maybe he is tied to these disappearances. And so it is her trying to uncover the mystery and the deaths that are happening in this town, as well as this love triangle. It is book number one in a new series, but it was just okay. I couldn't really get into the characters. Like I said, it was very much almost felt like just a retelling of a mixture of Twilight and The Vampire Diaries, which is okay. I liked both of those, but this book just wasn't doing it for me. And then I read The Library at Hellbore. This is a dark academia, just horror novel. It really reminded me of the movie The Faculty in a lot of ways, but we have this dystopian world where people have powers, and some of these powers are quite deadly. And certain children, basically, are sent away to a school to be reformed because their powers could hurt people. And they also have basically anger issues as well as some other issues. Our main character, she arrives at the school. The opening scene is her killing one of the students. And then it kind of goes back and forth between like present and the past of when she first arrived there, as well as things that happened to her in the past. This was just gory, and that was pretty much it. Gory and bloody was not for me. I like horror novels, but there's a difference. This was more of the ick factor than I felt like an actual linear story. It just wasn't my favorite. I read it around Halloween, uh, thinking, oh, this would be a perfect time of the year, but it just it was not that good for me. I couldn't really get into the writing or the story or even the characters, which seems to be the theme here. I also read Wolf Song. So, Wolf Song is a paranormal romance, and it is an MM romance. We follow our main character. His name is Ox. He starts off as a child, so it's his childhood up until he becomes a young adult, and he's lived a very sad life. Uh, his father left him and his mother. His father was abusive. People in the town make fun of him. He finds a family of friends and someone who kind of takes him in and helps him out and kind of keeps an eye on his mom. One day he comes across a child whenever he's coming home because a new family has moved in to the house at the end of his lane. And this child also has a very tragic past, very horrific things. No, he doesn't know that at this time. He just knows this child, this little boy, comes up to him and basically just says, "You're mine." And it is a sweet, sweet romance because you see how they are as kids and just as like friendship. And then it moves into like how they change and grow and how they're dealing with the trauma. This is also involves werewolves. That's everything that I should love, and I loved the story was great. I even liked the characters, but it was the writing style. I really, really struggled with the writing style itself, and that is the one thing that will really make me not be able to read a book. I did force myself to finish it because I liked the story, I liked the characters, everything about it I should have just like absolutely loved. But the writing style was just I I don't think I'll continue on just because of that. And then I read Now or Never 31. It's a Stephanie Plum novel. It's in that series by Jana Jovanovic. And I usually just read these when I need a fun, silly read in between, you know, kind of like a palate cleanser basically. But we're 31 novels in, and even though things at the end of the book seem to finally like be moving in a very specific direction, I don't know. This one just was like a complete miss to me. And I don't know if it's just I've outgrown the series or what it is, but it did not hit. I finished it, but I found myself really skimming it a lot, rather than actually like just staying and reading it. And if I'm skimming a book, then it's not going well at all. I also tried reading These Violent Delights. It is a YA young adult. I would call it more of like a paranormal romance. It is basically a Romeo and Juliet retelling. I love retellings. I love fairy tale retellings, Romeo and Juliet retellings. But this one, it was again the writing style. I could not get past the writing style. So I only read, it's a duology. I only read the first book, but it was a miss for me. And that's pretty much it. I enjoyed the characters, and I also enjoyed the concept. I thought the concept was good, but just the writing style itself just wasn't for me. Accomplice to the Villain. So this is book three in a fantasy romance series. It's very cutesy. I loved the first one. I loved a, Assistant to the Villain. That's the first one. Assistant to the Villain. I absolutely loved it. I giggled and laughed the whole way through it. On this one, I don't know. I'm not really finding the humor anymore, and the story I feel like is just getting drug out. So I don't know how many more books there are. Uh, but this one, again, like I felt this way for the second book too. The second book, when I read it, it was kind of like, oh, it's not as good as the first one. And I feel like this one's not as good as the first one. And I don't even know if it's as good as the second one. So I kind of just feel like it's slowly progressing, getting worse rather than better, which is sad because I loved Assistant to the Villain so much. And then I read Never the Roses. So this is billed as like a romance novel. It's not a romance novel at all. It's just a short fantasy novel for what it is. It's about a sorceress and a sorcerer. The sorceress has retired. She has made her money. She's paid off her debts. Now she just wants to go and be on her own. Wants nothing to do with this war that's been going on forever. And the sorcerer, he is the sorcerer to a king that was opposing the sorceress's queen when she was indebted to her. Now he is indebted to this king, but he is pretty grumpy, prefers to be alone. She has sealed herself away because of her powers and because she doesn't want to deal with anybody. She's just going to be on her own until she dies. She gets bored after so many years of locking herself away, and she's read all of the books in her library, and she decides she knows the sorcerer who's been her, I guess, opponent many years, that he has a great large library. And so she chooses to steal a book from him. And it's kind of their trying to outsmart each other, is what it is. This, I don't want to give any spoilers away, so I'm not going to talk about the end. But the end was absolutely awful for me. Did not like it at all. Also, I enjoyed some of the banter between the two of them, but I kind of felt like it was just very wordy. I didn't like the writing style again. Very beautiful, but there was a lot of words on the page that said pretty much nothing. And that was from the very beginning. I was like, okay, this is saying a lot of beautiful words, but it's saying nothing at the same time. So that was getting annoying, and it was pretty much like that throughout the entire book. And I felt like it was just trying to just really be like, I can write beautifully. And sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. Well, beautifully written, you need to at least be specific. At least make your words say something and mean something rather than just showing flower rather than just showing some flowery language. I also read Addo's Heart by Kresley Cole. This is about a vampire princess who she's pretty much been isolated her whole life because female vampires, when they have entered the mortal world, they have been stricken ill and they have died with this madness. And it also has a sorcerer. He has been locked away, trying to stay away from bounty hunters. Well, they both get basically, she gets brought into the mortal world. She ends up getting ill. She's immediately caught by bounty hunters. Somebody wants his kingdom and wants his power, so they let the bounty hunters in, and they're passed across in basically the prison world. I really like Kresley Cole's writing. This is actually in one of her series, but this was just, it was just okay. Um, like, I read it, it was fine, but I just expected more and I wanted more. And I just felt like it was just underwhelming. And so it just didn't work for me because of that. Then I read The House at Watch Hill by Karen Marie Monin. This is in a completely new series by her. It is about witches. And it was not that good. I did not like the story. I did not like the characters. I just struggled with everything. And it really made me sad. It was very disappointing because I love this author. I love her work. But I don't know. It seemed completely different than and all of her other stuff, which normally would be okay. I'm for that, but I just cannot connect with any part of this book at all. So I will not be continuing on with the series. And then another author that let me down this year was Erin Craig, A Land So Wide. I read this at the beginning of December. I expected to love it. In fact, I really enjoyed the first part of it. We have a girl, Greer. She is in a small town. This is kind of like between this, I think it goes between the 1600s and 1700s. She is in this town. The town has basically stones around it that protect them from these creatures that are in the woods that would kill them. And you can venture past the stones, but if you do, once night falls, you get sucked back into this town. No matter where you are, no matter what's between you, trees, stones, whatever it is, you're going to get sucked back into this town. So you're basically trapped. And it's either stay trapped in this town or get eaten by creatures. There comes a point where she is exploring. She's always longed to kind of venture out, but she's also afraid of these creatures, as everyone is. One day she sees the love of her life. He ventures past the stones right as night is falling, and he doesn't get sucked back in. And so she's freaking out. She doesn't understand how he made it past the stones, but he leaves off into the woods. And when he does this, she sees a creature following him. So she knows that he's potentially going to die. And she finds a way to make it past the stones. And it's her adventure basically searching for him, trying to find him, and trying to save his life. This book, the first half, I loved. It was like uh, M. Night Shyamalan's the Village. It really did remind me of The Village. It also sort of reminded me of Small Favors, which I absolutely love by Aaron Craig. But then the second half was not as good as the first half, and it just even the reveals uh, were pretty obvious from the beginning. There wasn't anything that really was shocking to me, and the creatures themselves, once you, it was like they were too many things trying to cram into like one type of creature. Too much going on there. So I wasn't even a fan of these supposedly, things I'm supposed to be terrified of. It was more just confusion, is what it was. And then the last book that I read, now this I didn't even finish. This is the one DNF that I'm going to talk about. It's very controversial, I'm sure. I expected to love this book, but I DNF'd it after like the first 10 chapters, and that is Alchemized. So, with Alchemized, I have read the fan fiction that this is based off of. I know the author had to completely rewrite it to make it her own, and I am all for that. I have read other works that have done that started off as fan fiction and now they've been published this year. And I still enjoyed those books. This one, I don't know. I could not get into it. I was not liking it. It was, for me, they kept talking about the magic system, but the magic system, they kept using the same words over and over, but they were not explaining what exactly was happening. It was just a word, and that word was repeated over and over and over again. Plus, the characters themselves, I felt like the main character, you couldn't connect with her at all, and you didn't even know who she was. So I really, really struggled with it, and I could not see myself continuing on. So I DNF'd it. Now, with all of these books, if you loved them, I'm so happy. That's great. Everyone has their own opinions as far as reading, because reading is subjective. So if you enjoyed any of these, I'm very happy that you did. Great. But for me, these were all misses this year in 2025. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.